Hey y'all, we are making a pie crust today. We're using a food processor. I'm doing this especially for Susan, but there's been many others that requested a video. This is the first of several that I'll make. The next one will be showing it done by hand, but today it's gonna be with a food processor. Y'all enjoy, let's get to cooking. So I've got some all-purpose flour in this bowl. All I'm gonna do is measure out 2.5 cups. We're making a double crust. And I'm gonna just put it in this bowl here. And set it aside. I don't have a little half cup measurement, so I'm gonna have to use this one for the half cup. And there we are. So now what we're doing is measuring 1.5 cups to add to the food processor. Just 1.5 cups. Out of this 2.5 cups that we just did in the bowl, in the glass bowl. Think that'll do it. And 1 teaspoon of salt. There we go. Now we will eventually use all that flour. But for now, that's what we're doing. 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour and 1 teaspoon of salt in the food processor. Now this will probably be loud. I hope I can figure out how to mute it. But you're gonna take the all-purpose flour and the salt and you're gonna pulse it 2 or 3 times. At this point, if you want to add a teaspoon of sugar, you also can do that. That's all I'm doing. So now what we're doing is taking 2 sticks or 1 cup of butter and we're gonna cut it into small pieces. I usually cut these into 4s and then just start cutting these. Makes it easier for the food processor to mix it up. Some people grate this, and that's great, especially if you're doing it by hand. You'll see it looks like slices, but it's little pieces. I'm gonna do the same to this. Cold butter. All right, what we're gonna do now is we are gonna scatter the cut butter right over the flour. I hope y'all can see that. Just break those pieces up the way you cut them. Cold butter. They will stick together, but they'll be fine in here. Now we're gonna pulse this probably about 15 seconds or until there's no flour that's not coated. Open it and check it. pretty good to me. So what we're gonna do now is we are gonna add the remaining cup of flour. And we're gonna pulse this just until the flour is evenly distributed. There it is. Well, I still don't have it right. There we go. That'll probably do it. So now we're going to transfer this to a bowl. So we don't need this anymore. The food processor has done all the work for us. We're just going to dump all this into a bowl. You won't see any clumps. It'll be like breadcrumbs. Soft breadcrumbs. Now I have some ice water sitting here, and I'm gonna sprinkle 4 tablespoons of water over the mixture. So what I do at this point is I just kind of stir it into itself. And as you can see, I need more water. So I'm going to add 2 more tablespoons. Stir again. You can see some of it coming together. So I'm going to add 2 more tablespoons. So I think that's 6 so far. And we're just going to try to get this to come together in like a ball, not crumbly. Mine needs a little more water. The weather has a lot to do with this. 2 more. That should do it right there. You don't want to work the dough too much. You just want it to press into. Yeah, and that's working. Press in. I think that's working. This is the point I like to get my saran wrap out. And just lay it on the, I'm gonna need 2 of these. So go ahead and get 2. I hate that saran wrap, do y'all? Let's hope this is big enough. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take our dough and we are going to pour it onto this surface. It's still kind of crumbly. Let me take my rings off. Okay, that's done. So what I'm gonna do is just pour this onto this saran wrap. And you will see that it is kind of powdery. And then I'm going to take my top part. You actually could use both of them. And I'm just going to press this in together. I'll take that. This is just the way I do it. I saw it. Several people do it different ways. I think I'm gonna turn this.
I'll turn this a different way. And you're just pressing this together. Forming your dough. Now you can take this off once it's done like that. So it's still kind of crumbly. So we're going to take our hands. Get this one out of the way. And now, since it's kind of pressed together, all I'm going to do is press and make a ball. I'm not kneading this. You don't want to knead this. We're not trying to make gluten like for bread. We are trying to press it together. That's all we're doing. And then I'm going to make a disc. Sometimes you might need to get a little flour, but you don't want too much, just to keep your hands from sticking. And again, you're not kneading this. You are making a little ball. And then we're going to form it into a disc. So just trying to get all the crumbs up. And that right there should be good enough. So I'm just going to make it into a disc. And then I'm going to cut this one in half if I can find my... There it is. Just going to cut this in half. Set one aside. Form this into a disc. Again, you don't want to work this too much. Again, we're not trying to make gluten. Flour plus agitation makes gluten. We are not trying to make gluten strands, even though we will be in this. That's why we're going to put it in the refrigerator and let it rest, because we want those strands to relax. Okay, so that one's done. I'm going to go ahead and make this other one into a disc. It looks a little smaller. I think I'm going to pinch some of this one off. A lot of people weigh their pie crust. I don't do that. I'm just going to make this into another disc. So I'll bring this one over here. I had to pinch off of that one so it has a little bit gone. So there's our two discs. I'm gonna get rid of my flour saran wrap. So now I've set them both aside, and I've got me a clean piece of saran wrap. Do y'all have trouble with this stuff like I do? It's hard, but this is the best thing to wrap these in for the refrigerator. So I'm gonna wrap that over. I'm gonna wrap that over. This one's ready for the refrigerator. See if I can get another piece out without scrunching it all together. Yeah, me and saran wrap don't do well. But it comes in handy for this. So doing the same thing with this. All you're doing is wrapping it. We've already made the disc. Just wrapping it. So these will go into the refrigerator for approximately 1 hour. It can stay overnight, but I'm gonna do it about an hour, both of these. Now I'm gonna clean up my mess, and I know y'all don't want to see me do that. So again, so our pie shell is out of the refrigerator. This is just one. It's been in there maybe an hour. I'm gonna set it aside. I've already cleaned my work surface. I'm gonna put some flour on my work surface. And I'm
gonna just rub that around because I don't want a lot of extra flour. Oh, my refrigerator's open. Y'all do know this is real time, right? The alarm goes off on the refrigerator, the doorbell rings, it's just happening in place. Sometimes. If it's not, we make it happening. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set my pie shell up, my disc out, and I'm gonna let it sit here and rest for 5 minutes after it's been in the refrigerator. While I'm waiting, I'm gonna tell y'all about this. Back at the big farm, before we moved here, I needed a smaller dough roller. I have lots of dough rollers. You can see some hanging right there. And I've got some in my drawer. In fact, I was just gifted this one and I think it's beautiful. Thank you. I appreciate it. You know who you are. But he went out in the woods because I wanted a small one. This is just a piece of PVC pipe. And he found it, cut it, and it works perfect. And I use it all the time. I use it for my bread and everything. I gotta get this done, y'all. I'm starving. You'll probably hear my stomach growl. So all I'm doing is flouring my dough roller, flouring my hands, and putting a little bit on the pie shell. And the first thing I do is I start in the middle and I just press down. This is just to get it thinner. And I just try to press it down. This is a beautiful dough. I can tell by feeling of it. And it just makes it thinner and easier to roll out. I will tell you if you see any cracks or edges like that, just press it in. This is the easy part. Well, there's not really any hard part to this. Sometimes it takes practice. So today I've made 4 discs, 4 pie shells. This is gonna be for a peanut butter pie. And it will be pre-baked. The others will probably go in the freezer. Okay, now I can start rolling. So I'll start in the middle and just press out. Do the same thing there. You do want to make sure your pie shell is not sticking, and I usually use my bench scraper for that. Make sure it's dry. And I just do this, just to keep it from not sticking. Little flour gets on it, it's not gonna hurt it. So that way I can pick it up and I can keep rolling. You want this to about an 1/8 inch thick. And you wanna try to keep it in a semicircle. I'm not great at that. I'm sure not no expert at all this, but it's fun. I love doing it. And evidently there's others because I had several people request for me to do this. I like working with any dough. That's just the way I am. Okay, I'm gonna make sure this is not sticking, because we have went out further. See if we can pick this up without it sticking. Yay. It does need some flour under there. Flip it over. If anything breaks, remember, you just piece it back together. No big deal. We have our screens open today. It got pretty hot yesterday, but we still kept our screens open. I love hearing the birds, and I don't like hearing those machines outside. So I think that's about it. You take your pie shell, you put it, and you want about 1 inch all the way around. I think that's gonna do it. That looks a little thin right there. Remember, it's fixable. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to roll this up on my dough roller. Again, if any tears, just piece it together. It's no big deal. Put a little flour on the part that tears where it won't stick to the rest of your dough. Perfect. Now I'm going to take my pie shell and try to evenly place it over this pie plate. And I think that looks really good. Now you don't want to stretch this. What you'll do is you'll lift this up and press down. Lift this up and press down. You want it into your pie plate. This is really pretty. It looks really good. Made a good dough. There's a little tore place right there. I'm just gonna pinch it back together. Lift this up. Press it down. Lift it up. Press it down. Lift it up and press it down. That's that little tore piece right there. It's not hurting a thing. You just want to press all this down. You do not need to spray your pie plate. It has enough fat in it with that butter. Now you can do this however you want to do it. Some people use scissors. You don't want any of this crust hanging down. I wonder where my scissors are. Let me find them. The story of my life. I can't find them. Sweet Hunter's probably put them somewhere. He's real good about helping in the kitchen, but doesn't put things exactly where I want them. But hey, I'm thankful that he wants to do stuff in the kitchen. So all I'm doing is kind of just getting this semi-even around here. And yes, I'm using a knife, and I'm just putting my dough over there. And I'm still letting it hang off, and there's a reason why, and you'll see that in just a minute. I want it to hang off a little bit. And this extra dough, don't think it's wasted, because if you have a tear, oh my goodness, that's where you patch. But if you had a pair of scissors, you could just go around this real quick and easy. See, that's tore right there, but I'm just gonna pinch it together. There's a little tore place right there. It's all right. So I've about got this. Some of it didn't need cutting off. Beautiful dough though, beautiful, if I say so myself. Every time I make a pie shell, I think of a chicken pot pie, and that's what I usually want. So you can do this however you want. I usually fold these sides up to make this thicker, because this is thin on the edges, and I make it even with my pie shell. And so I fold these under just to make them thicker, because when you cook this pie shell, this bottom is thinner, and these don't cook as fast, or they get too brown too quick. So I want to make them a little bit thicker. And see, I didn't have enough right there, so I'm just going to poke a little bit right there to make that a thicker pie crust under there. All that's about the same. Probably need to make it just a little bit thicker right there. And just tuck it under. And that's okay. So we're going to continue around, just tucking this under, making it a little bit thicker.
I only had a little bit. I had the patch under there. That looks like it needs a little bit of thickness. You just press it together, it's no big deal. And then this, let's get a little flour on my hand. Just tuck it under. I hope you can see that. Just tuck it under. It's gonna make it just a little bit thicker. Yeah, for some reason this makes me think of chicken pot pies and winter. I'm weird, I like winter. It's a rest time. It's a time to do things that you don't normally get to do. All right, so you can take a fork like you see a lot of people do and just do that. Or you can do this. Let's see how I use it. Just pull a piece up and just stick your finger right there. Pull a piece up, and it being thicker makes this easier. I like this look. I think it's pretty. If some of that part you glued on there, you didn't really glue it. If it pops up, all you do is just pinch it back. No big deal. Now when I get this done, I'm going to put it back in the refrigerator because again, we want a cold pie shell to bake. There's so many different ways you can do this edge. I just do it like this because I like it. And you can see I tore it right there. I'll go back and fix that in a minute. And it is thin on the sides, so it tends to tear. No big deal. And if it doesn't look exactly like you want, just go back and pinch it together. You can pinch it together like this. Unfortunately, I have nails. I should have wore gloves because it's easier to work when you have nails. See, I tore it right there. No big deal. Don't worry if you tear it. It's no big deal. All right, now here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna show you how, if you do tear it, which I did right there, I'm just gonna push a little piece of this extra pile of dough that I've got right here. I'm just gonna push that on there. So simple. Okay, my pie has chilled. I actually hid it on something in the refrigerator. It's okay though. And I'm gonna show you what to do next. So before you bake it, this is called blind baking. Turn it over this way. I use parchment paper. I put it down in here. My pie shell has been cooling for about 20 minutes. And I'm gonna pour this pinto beans in here. I may have to put a little more because my pie shell is a deep pie shell. Let me get a little bit more. These are pinto beans that I use just to weight my pie shell down. So now I have more for this deep dish. And it's just weighting it down. If you don't, the sides will slip and fall. And I've actually got a picture of that. If I could slip it in here and show you what'll happen if you don't weight it down and bake it like this. Now all I do is just take my parchment paper and cut it. Cut the corners. Make sure that your beans are pushed up against that pie, or I'm telling you, it will slip. It will make the sides of your pie shell fall. I've got my oven preheated at 375. I'm gonna put this in the oven like this with the parchment paper and the pinto beans at 375.
I'm fixing to make a peanut butter pie, and you can see that on my videos. Just look up Our Forever Farm peanut butter pie, and you'll see it. It'll be on in a day or so. But I'm pre-baking my pie shell. So again, 375. I'll let you know exactly how long I do it. I've got it set for 18 minutes right now. Okay, I just got this out of the oven. It's very hot. Beans in there, because this is hot. And my crust fell off. But as you can see, this is like halfway done. See how that fell right there? That's probably where the beans wasn't there. But anyway, you can see it's just a little bit brown on the edges. Now this is going back in the oven. I'm going to prick the bottom with a fork. And that keeps it from bubbling up the bottom of it. Now if you were doing an apple pie or not a pre-baked pie, you wouldn't have to do this. This will go back in the oven. That was in there for 18 minutes. I'm probably going to let it stay another 18 minutes or until brown. If the sides start getting brown, just get you some strips of foil and put around it in the oven. So this is about as brown as I want this. It took about maybe 15 more minutes, so altogether maybe 33 minutes. You just have to watch it and go by your oven. 375. If I'd kept it in it much longer, these would have got a little too brown, but this is perfect for me. So I'm gonna let this cool, and I'm gonna make a peanut butter pie. Be watching for that video, and y'all go cook something.